Well, happy Boxing Day and all that. I put a personal video up, non-gaming, about the Christmas present I received. Didn't hear much. I mean, I heard enough to wake me up. The initial crack or whatever may have woken me up. The only thing that I heard that I was aware of was kind of like a brushing sound as all the needles went by. So we're going to come back, play another round of cards, then maybe I'll go out and start trying to clean up the mess. But I'm expecting each card after the first to get easier in every turn. The headline event requires a lot of thinking. The first card in a CDG generally requires a lot of thinking, but then what starts to happen is you get fixated on the goals of the turn, and yeah, you know, extra points, you're going to be hunting for, well, what can I do with those extra points or whatever. But there's always plenty of things to invest in. And once you put aside the question of, should I take victory points, should I improve this element, whatever, as kind of your main goal, and you start to look at the cards, you're getting less and less cards to choose from, less and less events, and maybe becoming more and more focused on what your goals for the turn are by the early events that you played. The problem is those early events are really, really painful to decipher. We start once again with the Muslims. I'm going to continue with kind of a deeper dive into my thinking. We'll see where I go with that. I know I like to pull away, but all I have with the Muslims is there are 2 home cards and a resource. If I don't play the resource, it's going to go away. So I do want to extend a turn and get those 2 command points. Sultanate of Fez, I don't want to declare war on anyone new. Adding troops and playing with the diplomacy, well, maybe, maybe not. Is this one of any great value? Add a bunch of troops, or gain a victory point for control of Granada. Again, a victory point is a nice thing, you know? But I do have a couple of sieges I'm involved in. What are my chances on them? This one is very good. Of course, okay, maybe not that good. I may need to move some forces into there, and then it'll be good. This is the problem. I took too many losses. This one is not so good. I'm under strength. I have enough. I don't believe I have to have more. I think an equal is enough. I have enough to maintain the siege, but an assault is not looking to be in the cards unless I can get more forces there. So I'm looking at wanting a point for this. Now, obviously, a CP can do something. Another point, now I could pull out of here, but that puts me at risk against the prince here. It would take a couple of points to move units from up here, or down here, forward, and then I'd be at threat here. So, you know, I've got a lot of problems. Maybe I do want units. This is any combination of units. Oh, but these have to be Nasrid points. Ooh, fuck. And this one would add a bunch of North African units, but wouldn't give me any CPs. Fuck. See, with the 2-point resource, I could siege both of these. I could create a bunch of Nasrid units with this. But then it's going to take me 3 CPs to launch the attack that I want to launch, not 2. 1 to move in, 1 to conduct the siege. And I can conduct the siege with the excess forces that I moved in because the space was under siege to begin with. I think that's probably my best. is to try to improve the situation for the Nazrid, because these guys are doing some good right now. Play this card. It's going to generate 4. I'm going to make all Nazrid regulars. I could use Cav, but Cav don't really help me. I'm not fighting a field battle here. I'm trying to get the siege. I spend this. That's going to give me 2 additional command points, extending my turn. 1 will be to move into here, and 1 will be to conduct the siege, which I still have naval superiority for. With that heavy investment, the siege was not successful. Different kinds of battles, different kinds of rules for them. Yeah, there's the basic 5s and 6s hit, but they've tried to improve the realism of the combat system, you know, with tinkering with the number of dice you get in each battle, or each type of battle and each type of unit, and tinkering with when you get excess hits on 4s. So in a siege, the defender gets, you know, the dice is a little different, and also similarly, the attacker doesn't get bonuses on 4s ever. It all makes sense. It's just, it's a complex little system, one which there are no play aids in the game itself that provide you with that. Is this a big deal? I don't know. Again, information overload, man. Having to refer to the rule book is a pain in the ass, but in a way, it's kind of better to just have one thing when there's just too much, and there is just too much trying to be conveyed by counters, by play aids and whatnot in this game. Anyway, that siege did not go through. Also different is who you can take casualties on, right? You have to proportion the casualties for regular battles. Well, you do by nationality, but not by quality for sieges. So the Muslims were able to lose their militia in this, which is great, because that might be going away. It's just, again, too many things that are a little too different and all that. All of this could be handled by some more general rules that maybe have more overhead in a certain kind of way, but less in terms of what you have to look up and whatnot. So, you know, again, I'm going to compare it to the EU system, where I don't think you have militia in that, but if you did, they could be, and you do in Empires and Arms, they could be reflected as having their own morale value. And there's a base combat design that just works everywhere without a lot of modifications. And, you know, much more complicated and detailed military game, simpler to understand how the combats are going to actually work. Anyway. So that's the end of the Muslim turn. I spent my points. I spent my my 2 points to do something. That ends up going over there in the discard pile, ready to be integrated at the end of the turn. And now we move to the Portuguese turn. And I mean, I don't know what I should expect, right? You know, but I was hoping to take these 2 cities. It's becoming very clear that's just not going to happen. And I'm probably not going to get either, the way things are working. Which then leads me to the, well, do I reevaluate what my plans are on the next card? You know, I can't use this one to get me a victory point anymore. But I could use it for things like piracy, maybe. I don't have any Corsairs, do I? I have Kamal Reyes. Is he special? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know what I'm doing. And to some extent, like, there's areas of the rules I don't even want to explore because I've got other things that I understand that I could do, right? So it's like, in order to explore the piracy option and what kind of points I would get from that, I would have to, and it's just victory points and they can be taken away and all kind of shit like that. I would have to reread a lot of rules and consider all those impacts, right? Instead, it's easier to try to pursue the goals that I've already kind of set myself, even though I'm discouraged by them and I don't think they're going to work. At least I have come up with a mindset for them. There's too much complexity. Now, you could argue the same with an EU, right? Like if I said, look, I'm going to devote myself to exploration and whatnot, and my explorer dies on the first turn, yeah, I've got to change, but I've got to do it there, right? If I devote myself to a war and I declare war and start engaging in it, I've kind of got to engage in it at that point, right? I might have excess points that I can use somewhere, but I really can't back away from it. Whereas here, I can just shift focus very, very easily. There aren't a lot of costs to it as I see it. I guess if I entered into a war where I'm the aggressor and it fails and it looks like it's going to continue failing, I could switch over to what, though? Because I made my decisions in that initial purchase phase, I don't have the kind of flexibility to really change what my goals are. So I get to do all my thinking kind of at once. And then the rest of it isn't a matter. So in this game, and in all CDGs, to be honest, in a lot of these modern designs, that goal switch involves, you know, not only do I have the flexibility for that goal switch, but it involves reconsidering the whole turn in a different sort of way, right? So basically every card play, I'm put into a position where I may want to have to do that complete reevaluation of what my turn's going to be like. You could argue that flexibility is a nice thing. For me, it's a burden. It really is, because it means having to look up the rules, having to reconsider what my plans are and everything in a large way, whereas in a game where I had to pre-program, you know, what my goal was all at once, or what my goals were, then I'm kind of locked into those. I know the rules for them, and then I'm just reacting to, okay, I can shift, you know, resources a little bit, but not a lot, because the units that I'm using for field combats, I can't reposition to exploration or anything like that. That money was decided early on. And in this game, it's just cards, and I have full flexibility to do all that pre-planning type stuff from an EU type game and just shift it into a different section. It sounds good, but the burden of the choice is too painful for my taste. Portugal's choices, I kind of want to do the explorations, the Overseas Kingdom card, get a jump on that. And I do have resources I could spend for it, but I also want to take advantage of my situations. So the resources that I could spend could allow me the Siege of Seville, and that is appealing, but I can do that at a later time to clean things up. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to play, again, one of my more flexible cards with the intention of trying to siege Tangiers as well as Seville. Now, there is no fleet protecting Tangiers right now. Oh, hold on. Maybe there is. Because these are dual sea locations. Fuck. There is a big fleet protecting Tangiers. Oh boy. I may have to do the naval move first. In which case I'll have to spend my resource for that single siege. Ruh-roh. While looking it up, the naval support has to actually be in the port to prevent the siege from happening. So I think that is actually the card that I want to play to get the jump on that. And things are worse than I thought for the Muslims. They have too many troops to fit in Tangiers. I was not able to withdraw So I guess I'll fight a field battle with a shitty number of troops. Oh shit! I miscounted. So I can't conduct a siege right away. I forgot about that going in here. I was counting on 1, 2, 3 being my points. And instead I'm going to be playing 1, 2, and then an overage. That's okay because in terms of what I do, I would probably have still done the same thing because I want the resources for 1, 2 sieges. But it does mean that I have an extra point that I was not counting on. I couldn't bring all my troops in anyway, so building more troops at Quetta wouldn't have helped. So yeah, a field battle. Myself, because of the differences in the calculations of each, I cheated when I launched my assault here. I counted each infantry as a full die, as opposed to as a half die. I'm going to leave it alone, but yeah. There's going to be mistakes like that all throughout because anytime that I don't look things up, or if I look things up and look at this column and don't read every word, right? Because what I have to do is distinguish that this is against a fortified space with no defending land units. This is one with one or more defending land units. Again, the system is just designed to cause those kind of mistakes to happen. You know, is it more realistic to put the rules in the way they are? Yeah, it is. But as I often say, you start putting too much burden on the players and they're going to fuck things up. And then you got to question, you know, is it more realistic to have the rules broken than to try for something that's simpler? And I don't know what, you know, the simpler is here because honestly, certainly it is still more realistic to have the rules broken than to just not have that difference, right? There should be a big difference for a defending garrison. Whatever, it happened. It's too late to fix. The complexity of the results calculation, having to again look at the rules to figure out when fours hit, which fours hit. So here, the attacker is going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. 2 of these 4s don't count. Whereas the defender only gets 2. That's going to be enough to wipe out the defender. And, you know, I could have just left 1 militia out there to die instead and probably would have been in a better position, but I felt like, I'll take the chance. Well, bad chance. Die rolls on both sides for the siege up here. And nobody gets hurt. No 4s count for the attacker, the defender, ever in a siege. Gonna try to remember that. Maybe it'll eventually gel. And rolled the right number of dice, half the dice basically, for the attacker here, because there is a defender there. And like I said, 4s don't count. I didn't manage to get a 5 or a 6. An unlucky roll for them. For the defender, 4s didn't count for them either because they only had a militia defending it, and they've got to have a regular plus the defender bonus to get even a single 4 to count. That leaves me with 1 point. What the fuck do I do with a point? I could recruit a militia. Is there anyone I care about diplomacy with? The papacy is incredibly valuable, but I'm expecting Paul to die, and that'll reset things anyway. I'm not sure Genoa helps me. This is a card I could use for either side, so I could create Beltranejos forces. What's up here? Yeah, why don't I build a militia here? One problem, because they're using the reverses for the militia, and I mean, you know, it's a fine answer. No matter what, there's going to be an issue. But you're making change a lot of the times, twice as much as you would with a game that didn't distinguish between the militia and the regulars. Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, the militia may be a complexity too much again, because it's adding to that to the pain factor of the game as a whole. That's going to put me on a Spanish play. I have been up here enough. Raid is playing by itself. I got to do some cleanup work. I don't know if I'm up for it, but I'm worried it's going to rain worse than it is, and I really have to at least get a path cleared. And things aren't bad right now. All right, cleared some of the rubbish. But it started raining a little too hard. It's getting prettier now, but I wanted to get a little bit played. So I played Spanish card for, this would allow a ransom. I launched an attack with Ferdinand into Tarragona, where good old Hug was unable to escape and got attacked and beaten up rather heavily. Then moved John into place to get the artillery with me and up here. Now, we actually destroyed Hug's force, so he's captured now for whatever effect that has. Unfortunately, the ransom could have helped us a lot with that, right? No. This just actually doesn't give a ransom. Strangely enough, if you don't release anyone, a ransom might happen. Like, money might go into, in the form of cards, into the captor's hands. Some kind of advantage for holding someone captive. This card, which appears to cause a ransom, doesn't give the captor any kind of advantage, but it does give the player of it some extra cards. I don't know. It's for release of your own. I have 1 point left, which I spent on some militia for Isabel to give her an advantage on the attack up in that direction. My feeling being, try to solidify. First of all, I want to take the Catalans out until, what the hell is it? The Case of the Catalans game comes up. I want to take them out, and I want to concentrate on, weakening the Beltrané house without facing Portugal and the main force at this point. I figure I can do that later. And that'll get me to the French turn. This situation is problematic. I have a decent number of cards here. High value cards, nearly all, except this stupid kind of piece of garbage. But Anjou is not strong enough to face Ferdinand. I might be able to gain some advantage up here with Albret. I think Navarre is worth something, but they are neutral right now, I believe. So I would have to declare war on them and cause issues that I don't want to cause. I would rather take the war directly to Spain. I am at war with Spain, I think. I always have trouble with these. So I could continue actions down here. I probably have a little bit more strength under Albret here. To force the Spaniards into something ugly if I could meet the Beltrané house. But Isabel's up here. I'd rather wait and see what happens. So I think my goal at this point is Metz. I have a big force near Metz. I can advance on it. Force here is only 4, right? 2, 3, 4. I know I have tribals in one of these stacks or something like that, because I didn't realize you flip them over, you don't get militia on them, you get strength points. I do have a resource in hand. I kind of like the idea of just advancing. I can hold all my resources. One option would be to play the Papal Bull. Force the Spaniards to lose a card. That would slow down their capability to do stuff and I might be able to gain some kind of advantage of that. And if I do that, I still get 4 of the 6 cards. That's appealing, but right now I just don't know, and I want to play for time, so I'm going to play this card. The 2 points that it costs me is exactly what I need. Is that a cannon? No. To get me up here. And there would be no battle because they can fit in there. So I get rid of a cheap card. I delay my decision making. We go to the next card play, which will be the Muslims. And I think I'm going to break, because there's a break in the weather, and see if I can get a little more shit cleared out. The wood is heavy. There's the end of the tree over there. Anyway, well, the middle of it, something, I don't know. I don't know how many it took down, because I see pieces from, I think, 3 different trees in play. I'm on the Muslim turn. They have only 1 card left. Cannot use it for my Grenadins, whatever they're called now. What is their word? I don't know. Nazareth. I would love to complete this siege. If I do so, that gets me 4 points to play with. Alternatively, I could add a cav and a regular and 2 militia. That's like 7 points of stuff to home spaces, and play a diplomacy marker. I don't have the strength to do anything about Joao's siege of Tangier. I'm left with this kind of hard call of like, do I abandon the siege because I'm going to be forced out of it at the end of the turn? Or do I take it, or do I try to take it? The Portuguese will get 2 dice in defense. I'll only get like 2 dice in attack. So it's a pretty iffy thing. So I think I'm going to play this for its home card power. I have no resources or anything to fuck around with. Build the troops. I'll do something with some diplomacy. My reading of this card. Advance your influence with a minor 1 level on any track other than the papacy. I have done Venice, even though Venice is kind of intrinsically baked in to be a problem for the Ottomans. I'm hoping I have enough time that maybe some. You may now resolve the diplomatic status of another minor using the procedure all minors compete, where all powers compete regardless of their influence. 21.6 step 1A. I'm glad it has a rule reference. That makes life a lot easier. There's a lot of 20. 21.61A. Okay. So what happens? I'm going to pick Florence, where I already have the biggest advantage. I don't know how much it helps me, but you know, it's a key, it's victory points, whatever, you know. So, each competing major power rolls a die and adds their influence with the target minor. So, for Florence, I'm going to have a +2. France is going to have a +1. Everybody else is going to be at 0 because they're all included. Now, Florence is a fucking deactivate. I do not want them. I want an activate. That won't help me. Ugh. So instead of playing for Venice, I'm going to play Genoa, and I'm going to, am I allowed to? Yeah, I think I'm allowed to do it with any power, even though the activation is Nazareth on there. And I'm going to check for Venice. That gives France a +2 on Venice and me a +1, but it's the best chance that I have of getting something and whatever, you know. Chance 1 to die roll, not surprisingly. All of these goes down, so they can't get reactivated. All this territory switches over to French territory, not the Pope. And that gives the French a victory point for the key that they gained. And now they can move Venetian forces in support of anything that they want to do. I don't know how much that's going to matter at this point. And the Muslims are out of dice at this point, or out of cards at this point. Whereas other people, like Portugal, they're sitting on like 3 cards. Now, I think, yeah. So they're in kind of a good position. The Muslims had the least number of cards and had some significant issues where they played cards to their benefit that didn't really help them. And we got a bunch of troops here at this fortress that'll support our fight against Portugal in Morocco. Well, at this point plays the Overseas Kingdom card, their second home card. Add 2 militia and 1 naval squadron to Portuguese home spaces. I put the naval squadron here in Lisbon, the militia over here to support the Beltranejos, where I fear that they're overpowered. I add a now, I got a shitty one, and then I conduct 2 naval moves. My primary naval move, I'm going to move my fleet of now 3 Portuguese ships out into the Gulf of Cadiz. I don't want to double move it. I don't see any real advantage to that right now. If I didn't know he was out of cards, I might have shifted a ship into there. That would have definitely prevented the siege. I don't think it matters that I'm out here for that. But this gives me support here, just in case, whatever. And now it's time to do some exploration. So I sail out into Zone 1. This is as far as I can try to go anyway. And remember, the rules were a little weird about it, but I think this is allowable under a naval move. Don't think anybody had anything cool. If arriving at an ocean zone, I can do that. See 16.6. See if this is what I want. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it is definitely allowable then. Check for hazardous passage. If the now moves through a hazardous passage arrow, I did not. This red arrow here is not. So I don't have to make a navigation check for this. I do have to make a terra incognita check though. Roll 2 dice and add the now's crew rating. Unfortunately, this one's a 0. The first one I drew, you have to roll randomly, whatever. The first time I drew one thinking I was going to do it, I got a much better one. Any modifiers? No. No. Okay. So I need a 9 or better. But if I get a 6 through 8, I have a second naval move. I get a 4 that's sunk. He's just gone, right? He's just gone. So I don't get to do a second naval move with that now, and these guys would get to do a second naval move. I could challenge Kamal Reis here. We'd be about equal. I don't think that's a good idea. So, you know, I could get lucky, whatever, but that's going to be his turn. That puts me over to the Spaniards. I think I'm going to break because I have to pee. But you can see it's getting closer to what I'd expect out of a CDG. It's just the burden at that first couple cards, the headline event and the next card, was very heavy. But it is kind of determining my turn, and I'm not feeling myself too pressured as to what else I want to do. I do find myself pressured as to what I want to do when I count my points, figure out what I want to do for that card, and then try to figure out what else. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. We want to trigger this, which is two more, we extend with 2 more command points. Now there's something we can do that happens off extension with some countries, and I don't remember what the hell it is. Special rules for countries, and I do not remember what it is. I don't think it's with the Portuguese. I don't think it's at this point. I just don't know. Anyway, before I do that, I am going to run to the restroom. But yeah, I know that there's something special that happens when you extend your turn, that you're allowed to, like, I think it has to do with the French treaties, that if they extend their turn, they're able to trigger a treaty. 2 points were to conduct sieges. One of them here was very easy. There was nothing in the way, so not automatic, but I got good rolls on it, ended up taking it. That takes 2 points away from the Muslims and gives me 1 point. And then I also succeeded with Seville, which, since I have Beltranejo's forces with me, I'm giving to them because I vaguely remember there being a bonus when the Beltranejos eventually surrender or whatever. The territories that they actually control give me points, but maybe the Portuguese ones do as well. So we've ended, and the ship went up there, I guess. I don't know. It has nowhere to go, right? So I don't want to go looking up special rules as much as I have been. And so yeah, the Portuguese are doing pretty well. In fact, the Portuguese and French are doing relatively well. The Muslims and Spanish, not so well. If we take a quick look at the point valuations. How much does that matter? I don't know. You know, in terms of who's growing what? Well, Ferdinand is in a position where Catalonia is probably going to fall, so I think the Spaniards are doing okay. I'm not at all happy with where the Muslims are. They're not going to be able to do anything card-wise. Anyway, like I was saying before, I'm going to pause here. I did a couple of things, not just one, so that's pretty impressive. Spain has a shit ton of cards. One of these doesn't count. It has to be discarded. Home card still limited, even though they're one nation for foreign policy and whatnot. The Spaniards are still two separate kingdoms in this game. My off cards, the cards that aren't my home cards, I have 2 responses which would be really useful. One of them is sack, which I want to do because it can get me a resource. And I do have a resource there to spend. And one's the Master of Siege Artillery, which I get extra dice on my attack. Now, I'm not set up to attack anywhere except here right now. I'm not set up in the siege anywhere else. I might want to move forward with Isabel. I don't know how big she is. That's Cav. Very obviously so, unlike most of them. So I've only got 5 strength points, and I'm facing 5. That would be a field battle, which is appealing if he can't get everybody out of there. But if he, like, you know, withdraws with 1 unit or something, that's not necessarily optimal. Burgos up here I could take, though. Probably. Okay. My only other card is this Poison Wine, another 5-point card. I don't really know if I have 5 points worth of stuff to do. You know, I could play one of my home cards and play the resources to fire off the siege. On the other hand, if I'm doing 2 sieges, I'd like to fire 2 of them. How am I down here? Mendoza does not have a lot of troops, does he? So he's not really appealing for me to do anything with. I'm also forgetting about like my Neapolitans, whom I can move. You know what? I forgot to put a marker down. Let's see if I can find a French marker for Venice. Just to mark that. So yeah, I'm faced with some ugly choices, and then part of me is like, what if I do one of these and fire off my siege? I don't know. I have a lot of cards. This is the thing, like, you know, the poor Muslims here, they had a decent amount of cards to begin with, I guess, but after playing the headline event and whatnot, they were down to 4 cards total, 2 of them home. Their admin rating of 2, they're not getting to use that, whereas some of these other powers have weaker admin ratings, so they can't hold cards, but they have bigger hands, so they can do more each turn. Obviously, having more cards is more valuable than having a high admin that you can't use. So I played the Seat of an Empire to put a lot of troops down, give Isabella a whole bunch for her potential attack here. I actually put one in the Canaries. I put another boat down. I get like 5 different units, and I took 1 cav. I think I could have taken a siege artillery, actually, which might have been better than a cav. I took an infantry there as well. Let me see how this is. More than 1 regular can be recruited, but otherwise these units contain more than 1 of each type. Yeah, let me get rid of a regular for a siege artillery if I have one. I do not. I think they're only in Aragon, and I think there's only like a limited number. Like there's only 1 counter, which may have a 2 on the other side. I successfully took Barcelona. I think I moved the points for that. And now I'm going to play the sack. This gives me a naval resource, which can fuel my next action. Let's see what we get here. We got a whole shit ton of command points. Well, I mean, that's great and all, but I was counting on something smaller than that. But now there's more things that come from this sack, right? I roll a die. On a 5 or 6, I get a card from the deck. Okay. Further enhancing my turn, Lorenzo the Magnificent. Advance your influence with Florence. Playable if it is turn 1 or turn 2. France gains a victory point, and Florence, Genoa, Naples, and Venice are deactivated from their current ally. I don't want to play that. I don't want to give a victory point away. But, you know, at the least it's 4 extra CP. And then, one more thing, roll the same way to see if I can draw a card from the French player's hand. You kind of want to do this early in the turn, because he might not have a card that I can take. However, draw a card from his hand could be that resource. The rules kind of had something special about that, where it's like, I do not get that one. But, you know, this is an incredible, valuable card in terms of what it can produce for you and in terms of extending your turn. Now, I can't play that 5 resource point, but I do have the 2 resource points left. I'm going to advance Isabella in there. I'll let you know what happens, because there's possible withdrawals and all kind of shit like that. Point gets Isabella to Toro. These guys managed to withdraw. I did not want to fight a field battle against Isabella. She has like 3 cav with her. The Spaniards have, not that card. This Master of Siege Artillery allows an immediate assault to take place against a space besieged in the same impulse by any player. I think you still have to pay the point for that extra thing. Not clear on the card. So I don't know, but I don't have another point right now. It could be useful. Like, it could have been useful if he left more forces behind or something along that line. But as it is, the Spaniards have used up their turn at this point. Pretty good card play, actually. Things went very well for them. this turn. Why do I have Portuguese down there? Oh, for the withdrawal. Yeah. And that'll bring me to the French. I hate this. The French have a shit ton of cards, points, whatever, left. They have the Papal Bull, which I'm thinking about playing. It'll give me 4 CP of action, steal a card from the Spaniards, and it feels like that's kind of useful. Because I think he's at war with the papacy. And that would be of some value. I want 1 point for the siege there. I can't really besiege this because the Spaniards have fleets in here, and I don't have enough forces to counteract them. I could, of course, build my own fleet, which would cost me 2. So if I build my own fleet for 2, I probably won't get intercepted. That was a newly built unit, which means I'll probably win the naval battle, right? You know, maybe, who knows what. So that would cost me 3, and then 1 could conduct the siege. That sounds like a good idea. And that allows me to hold these other cards. I don't have an admin rating. I do have that resource, but I don't want to use it quite yet. So I'm going to go after Metz as well as the naval action. Technically, I think this is in the discard pile. I remember something like that. Like that it gets discarded when it's used, which is not something that happens to the home cards, which means that Tanto Monta could actually seize the Papal Bull, I believe. Just a weird sort of thing that only works with that. Like, that card is a particularly special case. Like, it gets handed out at the beginning of the turn, but it doesn't do that. French moved in with 2 boats. That cost them 2 points to build the boat, 1 point to move a naval move. I could do this naval move, but I'd lose that battle, so yeah. I didn't manage to catch the Spaniards, though. They tried to intercept, they failed. They tried to withdraw, they succeeded. They've got 2 fleets here, which means I have to do an even fight to win that siege. But because I spent 3 there, I'm doing 1 for the siege of Milan. By the way, the card drawn was good old Lorenzo the Magnificent. There is indeed a rule about resources and cards both being available, but whichever you have more of is what must be drawn. Okay, and it's kind of funny because you're not going to have an extra card or victory point resource there that can be stolen. The only thing that can be stolen from the warehouse, I think, is going to be CPs. There might be some special moment where it's possible that but in terms of with regular impulse card play, the only thing you're going to ever steal is CPs, because everything else gets revealed immediately. So now the siege of Metz, which is not pleasant. Well, for the French on the siege of Metz, they didn't take it, but like I said, it wasn't pleasant. I converted one of my cav to an infantry so that I would get an extra die from it. I ended up with like a total of 6 dice looking for 5s and 6s. Getting half of them is pretty good. Here, though, I took 4 hits, but that can all be militia because it's a siege. I don't have an artillery piece here. I don't know where my artillery is. That takes up the French turn. I could extend it if I so desired, but I've already done the siege I want to do for this impulse, so yeah, not now. And that moves me to the Muslims, who have to pass, and then back to the Portuguese. And it's probably time for me to go play raid. We're moving along at a clip. What is happening? Yeah, it's kind of hard to discern. I mean, it's one of the problems with these with these CDG type things, because everything's all mixed up. You know, it's hard to get sort of that. Oh, now I'm looking for a word and it's passed me by. my brain has gotten too old to remember the vocabulary. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not coming, and I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy as the words start disappearing from my head. Of course, we always have the hope that, like, and it really is that I won't last another week and have to go shopping or whatever, As often happens, even before my brain started deteriorating too much, I move to turn off a light or whatever, and I remember what I wanted to say. I wanted to say there's a stately nature to kind of games like EU or whatever. What the fuck is going on? In terms of just, how the game develops. And the opposite of that is what we see in these pulsed games. There isn't that sort of stately. Now, in terms of my brain, I knew it started with an S. Static is what I was thinking of. And then, I go towards, well, no, that's not it. Ponderous, I know that's not it. but in a way, that's just how the little neurons are firing or whatever, and not giving me the word that is the correct one that I want for the description, one that I'm used to using, but it just evades me. And it's not, my mom used to confuse my brother and I and the dog's name with one another. So, the decline is real, and it happens to all of us. And I don't know. Whatever. Just as I was, starting to get into the flow of the game and beginning to like it, someone pointed out a couple of errors I got. One of which was something about the Burgundian War not being able to be discarded. Was that the card I had? I know I managed to lose a mandatory event, I thought legitimately. Yeah, the war against Burgundy. I don't know. And then the other one is that that the Muslims, that there's a special rule that the Muslims can't declare war on Spain until some event happens. Probably the Mulli Hassan seizes something or another. I don't know what he fucking seizes. Why is this here as a flag? Yeah, honestly, there's too many special rules to keep track of in this game. And the only way I'm going to enjoy it is to play it the way I played EU the first time I played that, which is just like, I play it, and if I run across in looking shit up and stuff, things I've done wrong, maybe if I play it again I'll remember, but maybe not. I really don't give a shit enough. I'm at the point where I made the promise to myself, the only way I can cope with this is to play it the way I played EU. Knowing that it was a fucked up, it wasn't going to come out right and everything. And what I learned was the rules as written in EU are bad enough that, like, you can't really discern things. Here I don't think that's the case, but my brain is not able to hold on to them. And it's that simple. So, and I'm not willing to keep looking things up when I have, there's some games where I have a twinge and I'm like, isn't there a rule for this? And I go back and look it up. Here, when I hit that, I'm just like, yeah, but everything's got a fucking little rule for it. So screw it all, and if we go off the rails, too fucking bad, right? All right. I'm going to go back to raid and then sleep. It's Friday, around noonish, maybe a little later. I got up early and did a lot of work on the yard and whatnot. I mean, a lot for me. I haven't been out there continuously. I've been watching videos and stuff too. But I think what that means is I'm not going to be able to finish this today, this turn, which is fine. But I am also too awake to take my nap yet. I really should be sleeping already, but I slept too much at night. But anyhow, it looks to me like I'm on a Portuguese turn, which feels a little weird. I don't know. Looking at the situation, I have 2 cards left, no resources. One of my cards is mandatory. I'm allowed to hold a card. This isn't a terrible choice to hold, although maybe I want to do sieges, but we'll keep that as an option. We're going to play this mandatory card that we don't want to play. Maximilian helps France's enemies, Burgundy, Brittany, Metz, and or Milan. He also increases the cost of the Treaty of Senlis for France. By the way, that Burgundy card, without a rules reference, mandatory events can be played as headline events. Headline events can be canceled. I don't see any way that France could have been forced into that card. Now, so yeah, I need an explanation on that one. The other side of it, that the Muslims can't declare war on Spain, I vaguely do think that there was a rule of that sort. I don't want to look for it. It's too late for me to go back and whatnot, just to hit on that topic. But I think that Burgundy card was played correctly. And I don't see a way around it. Mandatory events can be played as headline events, and they can, not as backers, as the event itself, and headline events can be canceled. But anyway, Maximilian helps France's enemies, Burgundy, Brittany, Metz, and or Milan. See 20.7. He increases the cost of the Treaty of Senlis for France. If you are France, this event is executed by the Spanish player, but the France will still get 3 CP. So, and we don't match the removal requirements. Portugal is going to get 3 action points afterwards, but I have to work my way through that 20.7 roll to see how Maximilian reacts. I think the first thing he does is he's going to try to relieve the siege here of Metz. And then beyond that, I'm not sure what else he does. Indeed, and I've made some change. Milan's 8 points are now better appropriated so that I could bring Maximilian in. What's interesting here, I had to look up a couple of rules to get to this. It says here 8 independent units in each besieged city. The player declares the order of execution. A relief force battle immediately takes place. Moreover, back in the... We'll have to go back here. But in the avoid battle, each major power with land units in the destination of a move action may declare and resolve avoid battle. I don't think the French can avoid this battle, which sucks because they're badly outnumbered. Anyway, I'll take it offline. And the grand effect of that is all we had was the one battle. Nothing else applied, although if Burgundy was around, he would have reinforced that as well. He completely swamped the French army. The leader there would be captured, but I think, and I didn't go look this up, since there's no player actually, no player power doing the capturing, he just goes on to the next turn thing. And now I got 3 points for the Portuguese, and I'll try to figure out what the fuck I'm doing with them. I don't have a lot of points left, so I probably don't want to institute another siege, but I may want to relieve this. And a couple little weirdnesses here, too. So, okay, I march in, There's no successful withdrawal or, well, I tried the interception first because the battle would have been close if that was the case. Neither of those happened. We had another wipeout, which means we captured Ibn Yahya, and we captured a leader at least once in the game, victory point marked up there. But beyond that, because it's a siege relief, normal battle requirements to lose like regulars are not in effect. So I was able to take my only loss from the Portuguese on a militia, which normally you wouldn't be able to do. Again, you know, there's these little fucking tiny little rules. Now, why is that there? That rule is there to prevent you from having to lose forces from the garrison, I think. But it just feels like, yeah, okay, maybe that would have been a reason not to commit your garrison or something along those lines. It really irritates me. I remembered this rule existed and thus went to hunt it down to make sure that I was right, because I know it doesn't, I know it's not the case in sieges. I know in sieges, you're not required to take particular losses. But in regular battles, you are required to prioritize your losses to regulars and cavalry over militia, but you can alternate. You can take half your losses and round it down in militia. But here, I was able to take my only loss in that. It just is the kind of thing that angers me. Now I'll look into whether or not I can siege Seville there. Cannot, because I own it already. Goes back in the deck. It's kind of a weird situation. Not that I own it already, but it left me with 2 points that, like, yeah, from the visual representation, I'm like, I'm not sitting on top of a purple square. Yeah, but green is mine too. So what I did was I built another naus, or another now, because conceivably I could do a naval move with this if I want to. I can't do it now. 2 points for the now, and I don't know what else I would do. You know, I could initiate piracy or something like that, but I can't. I don't have a pirate situation. I just can't think of anything else that I would want to do with 2 points. I could build troops, but I know I want to focus on the exploration side of things. And I'm kind of falling behind. This time I got a better explorer, but I'm probably not going to use him this turn, because holding the card makes some sense to me. That's going to put it to the Spanish turn. I need to stop. I can't. Time-wise, this might be the end, but I need to pee, and, you know, that one card was pretty expensive in terms of the number of fights and whatnot it generated. Move to Spain and start looking at their hand of cards. I noticed something. They captured Hugs Roger. I did not record his victory point, so we'll give them that. This is a one-time thing. You capture a leader, you get that victory point, and then you're just settled there. So whatevers. I'm allowed to hold 2 cards, and I got 2 I could hold and play 1. I got to think about my strategy a lot with the Spaniards here. Remember, I can only play 1 of these 2, and then, but I can play both of these if I wish to, but I could also hold both of them because I have a high admin. I also, though, have 5 command points. Sounds like it's raining like mad now. Fuck. Like, it's been nice all day. I hear it, but I don't see it. Can't be raining that hard. Okay. Oh, you know, the easiest way would be to open this. It's definitely raining, not as hard as it sounds on my roof. Okay. Yeah, I gotta make my choices here. So one of the first things that I had to think about is Aragon is sitting in Barcelona. I don't think I'm going to lose it. And I thought that was, and it is indeed, the surrender condition for the Catalans. Just to make sure, I had to look in the rules. And of course, it's not under the power rules for major powers, even though Catalan's a major power. Not minors, obviously. It's in the victory conditions. It has nothing to do with victory conditions in and of itself. It's in a really weird place. But whatever. You know, it allowed there to be a couple of paragraphs for surrender of major powers to be consolidated, I guess. I don't know. By squeezing it in there. But it really doesn't belong there. It really belongs under, like, there should be a surrender of major powers. And then all the powers, you know, under the major powers rules. And then all the powers that can surrender, the 3 that can, should have their special rules, because most of it is special rules. Okay, let me look at my points here. So I own Barcelona already. I've gotten lucky in taking it. I don't think it's going to be taken from me. So that's an area where I kind of don't really need to do anything at all. I've got 5 points there. That's the problem. So I'm probably going to hold this card. I need 1 point for a siege here. And other than that, it's kind of tough. Now, the Crown of Aragon card lets me build a bunch of troops, which is not a bad choice. The other points that I want to spend, I think I'm going to spend in the Canaries. So what am I going to do? Am I going to blow my Master of Siege Artillery? Well, see, here's the problem. If I play this as a card for points, then I don't get its advantage there, and it could be really useful to me there. If I play the Crown of Aragon card, in order to see what happens, I've got to play my response. I think this is probably the best. 4 land units of any types in home spaces, more than one regular can be recruited, but otherwise the units must contain more than one of each type. So I think I'm going to play that. That will get rid of the Tanto Monta, which then, like, frees up the French. Or I could play this. What? See, this is worth 6 points. I don't need that many points. So let me do this. That lets me keep a card. I can actually keep both cards if desired. I'm going to use the response for my action. Well, I was able to, I captured this, and I was able to use 2 points very easily. Move these 4 units forward and grab the location. I could do it in either order, it doesn't matter. Actually, these might have prevented taking control if I don't move in there. Anyway, but now I got 2 points left, and now it's not trivial. I guess I can go here. This is a strategic space. The fortress needs to be sieged, so I'm not going to have an easy time getting that. It sounds loud again. Even louder. Maybe, I don't know. A little bit. Okay. The Spaniards indeed moved in here. I'm running into a countermix issue here. I'm also running into issues where I think I know what the combat rules are, and then I realize I don't, or I'm not positive. I go look them up and I'm wrong about them. So, like, I'm getting to the point where I'm familiar enough with them to start not looking them up every time, and therefore to start being wrong, right? Like this time, I did not think that the defender got a free die off of being the defender if it wasn't in a fortress. They do, and that die counts towards their 4 count. I don't think I've fucked up on that particular instance, but, like, again, it shows these combat rules are not simple enough to just, like, have in head the way the Here I Stand ones were. So that's the end of the Spanish turn. They have the option now to pass, because I've got 2 cards in hand. I have no resources there. I've used up all my home cards, so I feel pretty good about that. You know, I don't have to waste movements anywhere, but if I do have movements, I have plenty of stuff that I can do shifting forces in the Canaries. I don't have an easy access here. There's something that allows me to do sea movement to the Canaries, I think just to ports, without having ships in between. But I don't really need reinforcements there. What I really need is boats there so that I can do naval landing, but I can only do the naval landing in ports anyway. I still can't land on these island spaces, so it's really not that helpful. I'm gonna have to siege this to get the point that's there. I got the point that's here, and I'm going to have to, well, I don't have to cross a mountain pass. I could cross there, but launch a siege there and begin things. There's no port there. The only ports are the places that I initially held, which kind of makes sense. Nobody's built a port anywhere else. But it does also kind of feel like ports, like the Spaniards would start building ports. It wouldn't take them, you know, more than a turn or something. All right, on to the French. And so far, nobody's built a fort. I don't know if that's for good or ill. It's like, it's not a bad cost. It's what, 3? 2 in the rest of the world. But the thing is, I'm never left with 3 points. I'm often left with like 2 points. Now the Spaniards might have been able to build a fort with that big 5-point resource, but all right. Let me swap pipes, and I'll try to get to the French. We may actually finish this. When I came up here, I had about an hour. France has a shit ton of points. They have 2 resources there. They're not allowed to hold any cards, and they're sitting on 3 5-point cards. Obviously, I could do some of these, like, without previous declaration. I can't use this for an event. That's 5 points. City-state rebels. Fortified space not under siege. And not controlled by the home power. Attacker rolls 6 dice. Each hit forces eliminations. I would be able to like use this to make Barcelona revolt if I get it. Power of the Crown. I'm probably going to use this for my event this turn to advance the loyalty of a noble house by 1 level. Great. But add 2 regulars and a cav in home spaces. That can help me reinforce Anjou down there. The problem is Anjou doesn't have a chance of winning the fight. The city-state rebels might soften him. But I'm not really sitting on, like, I don't think I can save the Catalans even with that. I'm just outgunned. He's got Cav with him, doesn't he? I think that's Cav. Nothing else will be. He's got a 2-point leader as opposed to my 1-point leader. And he's got the capability of commanding 10 troops, and he basically has that. Whereas I don't have my 7 yet. I'm left in a position where I just don't see how I can win this fight against the Spanish here. So, to some extent, maybe the best thing to do is to just wash my hands of the Catalan problem and turn elsewhere. But what is elsewhere, right? I got beaten back here. I basically don't have troops other than what's under Anjou. Just not that in favor of any of my choices. The thing that I definitely would like to do is up my cards by playing with those. So I can boost my numbers on those, I guess. That would be of some value. And build troops. So I think I'm going to use that home card to build troops. See what happens. If I build some troops up here at Perpignan, that's not a bad place. I want to defend that, and Anjou disappearing is going to cause some issues there. I'm going to be able to finish the turn here. First of all, there's a lot of French cards that might cause reactions by the Spaniards. Also, there's the end of turn process. So I look at this, advance the loyalty of one noble house by one level. Well, Navarre, I get the most off of that, but I don't know if that counts as one level. I don't know anything about that, so I'm going to have to go look that rule back up. I know how most of them work, but Navarre confuses me. In my reading of the rules, Navarre has its own special rule, and I was right to think I can't just raise it. Based only on control of Pamplona. If I take it militarily, I raise them to a 3. If I take it politically through diplomacy, it raises to a 5, and it's just that. There's no victory point counter or anything available for it. Raising something that's already up seems like a good idea. So I add loyalty to 1 by 1 level. I'll do Armagnac. Because I want to hit that 5, and then I can let them drop or whatever if need be. 2 regulars and a cav to space. Home spaces, which Perpignan is not, Rousselon is not home to anyone. I put them here. I don't know. I mean, that's 2 spaces away. I could put them in Narbonne. I could play my 2-point piece to bring them up to join Anjou. I think it's worth doing at this point because it helps defend Anjou's forces. 1, 2 across regular pieces. That'll get rid of this card. And now we're back to the Muslims. They don't get to play. Get to the Portuguese. Let me check time. For the Portuguese, they have the big question. They have an admin. I could hold my card. Is there anything I can do? Like, look, I'm going to have that card this turn or next turn. I'm not facing any emergencies right now. I'm not facing anything I terribly want to do except maybe explore into Cape Verde. Is there anything I can do that's going to improve my card position? And the answer to that is sort of. If I go explore Cape Verde and gain it, I get a resource. Now that resource shows up here. Another thing I could do would be if I could cut off Fez or Marrakesh, but I can't cut either of them right now. So Marrakesh can trace to here. That means Fez can trace to here or to here. Those are separate paths. So if I took this, I could cut Marrakesh with, no. Well, I could cut Marrakesh with 2 movement by grabbing it. But I can't siege it, so no. Forgot, keys are siegeable locations. But I think it's worth moving the now to get that resource. Even though I don't get that resource next turn, it generates it and it comes back to me the turn after. So I think it's worth doing. So that would be a naval move. And I don't know what to do with my other point. Maybe build a militia somewhere. I don't know. Look to this, and I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't have the rules I need, right? It's got the chart, and eventually it may be helpful, but I don't really feel like it's good enough yet. I feel like So I know I don't have to make a navigation check there. I know I only have to make the terra incognita check, I guess. So I think I can actually use it. I do remember enough. Terra incognita modifiers. So I have a +2 for my explorer. I get a total of 8, and that's a damage, do not advance the now to the ocean zone. Well, that's not good. I think I can go again with a damage now. I don't think they get repaired anyhow. So let's spend the extra movement to try to sail back there, to sail there again. I get a 7, 8, 9. This time I get a successful exploration. I get here. I don't get a cartography thing. I do get one of these. And I believe I'm able to create a settlement right away. Oh, I could have moved my other boats. I did not want to. So does creating a settlement cost me anything? I don't see anything here. So I'm going to look up the rules, I guess. Oh, good God, I don't know. And now in an ocean zone where there's a vacant exploration map space may, as its move within a naval move action, enter this vacant space and found a settlement. I think because I don't have the extra point, I cannot. So I've discovered the area. I will not need to roll on Terra Incognita again, although I might want to get the victory points for it. But it's not safe for me to stay there, and I don't have another point that I can squeeze. Like, this is the thing. Early on, if you fuck up with something like that, or with a bigger card or whatever, like I spent a 2-point card. It turns out that was the minimum that I needed to do what I wanted to do. I would have still done it, I think. But, yeah, and I think I built the now with like points that were the excess points from my last card. So, all right. Well, I think we're stuck out there. I thought there might have been, I thought the rules were you could just found it, but I can't. I'm going to need another point, and I don't have that. So the Portuguese are set back by that. And that's going to put us on the Spaniards, who I think want to pass, although the French did reinforce themselves. But I don't see anything. So unlike the Portuguese, who have I can gain something by playing that card. Conceivably, I could gain a resource, not next turn, but at the end of next turn for the turn after, which seems like a good idea. I don't see anything like that for the Spaniards. I might as well hold my 2 cards. That puts me back to the French. And the French are going to try to do cruel and unusual stuff to try to get Barcelona. I think it's a low chance of doing it, but I just don't have the resources. Like, I don't have the goals, right? I don't think I get anything for Italy. I looked this up. You know, so much you have to fucking look up in this game. I looked this up. France, Lord of Italy. France gets victory points for controlling these, but it doesn't look like I have to do the turn to Italy to get them. Yeah, I think the turn to Italy just allows me to do some declarations of war. So I have to control Milan, which I do not. which is something I need to go for. I need to control Nice or Modena. I don't have Nice. I don't have Modena. I have to have the 3 treaties. In addition, once the treaties are signed, I get a 2 victory point consolidate marker for returning to Italy that is retained as long as these 3 conditions are fulfilled. Okay. So these conditions are for me to get that 2 victory points. And I think that because it's a consolidate power thing, it's a permanent victory point bonus. So yeah, I don't really have to hurry there. So, you know, I'm going to bumble along and try to use the cards that I have, which allow me some kind of neat stuff with the city-state revolts and whatnot for a chance of keeping Barcelona alive. But it's spending a lot of resources. On the other hand, I don't have an army. But I'm going to waste my army. I'm definitely enjoying this more than I did Virgin Queen, okay? I don't know why. I don't know if I kind of want to replay Virgin Queen to see what it is that irked me so much about it, and maybe because part of it I think is just a mindset. The mindset that I had when I played EU was, let's see what happens. And maybe the first time I played Here I Stand was also that. Let's just see what fucking happens and worry about strategy later. You know, worry about strategy another time that I play if I'm going to play another time. Let's just play it to enjoy what's going on. And I'm actually having kind of a good time with this. It's predicated on not being too worried about fucking up rolls, though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to test the waters with city-state rebels. I feel like that way I'm not risking my own army. I get 6 dice. If I beat up the Spaniards enough luck, you know, they get to react. But I probably can't take Barcelona from them anyway. I can't siege it because I spent my card. Why the fuck am I even doing this? I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know. I'm left in a really ugly situation. So if I charge with my army, this might take the space. My army has no chance of getting it, though, I think. And I've positioned everything down here at Emporius, which is okay. I'm at war with Spain. But maybe what I want to do... Okay, I don't have a leader up here, so I really can't do a damn thing against Milan or against Metz. The only thing I can do would be to blow a lot of points on building troops, I guess, or up these. I don't know. Again, you know, the little engine, it's these. So the little engine that's France, I'm going to concentrate the rest of my points there. I'm going to just take this as a sunk cost that I fucked up by moving those forces there. And it's not terrible. Again, I am at war with Spain and I need to defend that space. So, okay. Although I'm going to have to fall back to fortresses and whatnot for winter, and I'm not going to be there. I definitely spent points that I shouldn't have spent. I could have fallen back with Anjou to Perpignan and just said, screw it. But I spent my 5 points upgrading Armagnac, starting to work on Orleans next. Got my victory point for that. I think we're going to fly through, nobody's going to do anything, and I'll do the other 5 there. That gets me to the end of the impulses, because everybody's going to pass after that. Which means what? Which means we go to the winter phase. No, come on. Seriously? There's a sequence of play in here. I know there is. There we go. It's about the same here. Resolve specific mandatory events if they have not been played. I think that's going to be on this table. Mandatory events. Turn 1, Sixtus the Fourth, Pope. Okay, so we got to dig out the new Pope. I'm going to replace Pope Paul and resolve control of the papacy and apply the effects listed. Affinity 3 neutral for Muslim, 1 for Portugal. This is kind of weird. But I guess that goes like that, as opposed to the colors. And then 21.7 we have to deal with. So we just had a succession for the papacy. Deactivate the Pope from their current ally. This deactivation may cause papal units to be displaced. Remove control markers from the Christians. This is going to cost the French some victory points. They were in the lead, damn it. After displacement, check to see if there are 5 regulars and 1 naval. If not, add them. And then I think that's it. No. During the winter phase when resolving a mandatory required event. Each time a new Pope enters the game. So we have to make a check. Somebody will end up with the papacy. These do not actually get moved. Instead, those affinities are added. So the Muslim has a +3 plus their 0. The Portuguese have a +1 plus another one. So they're going to be a +2 on the die roll. I still have to look for the diplomacy check, because it's not here. It's in the normal diplomatic checks rolls. So I have to go back to those. Not something I've had to deal with much. I think it's 2 dice per player, but I don't know. You know what? It's raid time. I'm going to position this here and all of these dice to remind me that I'm at the start of the winter, and just stop there. Because I feel like it's going to take me 10 minutes to do this and get all the effects into play. I've already taken the victory points away from the French. I've deactivated the Pope. I haven't done this roll of diplomacy. But then, you know, I have a whole series of additional things I have to do in the winter phase that I don't really want to cope with. You know, well, I can't cope with. And I kind of don't like the idea of stopping partway through. So I resolved the papacy. Everybody just gets to roll 1 die. The Portuguese were at +2, the Muslims at +3. The French ended up winning it. They keep their control. I should not have deactivated the power already, but I was able to rectify that situation and get the French their point. Okay. Well, 2 points actually, because a key, which is worth 1 for them, and a triangle space somewhere up here. Okay, great. I skimmed through and there's a bunch of things I didn't have to do. Now resolve return of noble militia to their homes is the next thing. And this is a pain in the ass roll in my opinion. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but what you do, there's 3 places where militia don't count. Canary Islands, foreign war card, okay, those are easy. And in a formation with a leader, a lot of your units are going to be in formation with a leader. If there's a leader in the stack, you can probably figure out that you could put the militia in that formation. However, everywhere else, you got to count each person's militia, which means pawing through a bunch of stacks and whatnot and searching all over the board. I hate doing stuff like that. Things like that should not be a part of the game for the most part. And then you roll, and each die for each militia that's available, and each one you roll disbands one of the militia. I really feel like the amount of effort being put into different types of units has caused a lot of complexity in the combat that requires lookups to see, you know, who gets what, you know, who hits on fours and how many do they get and shit like that. It's just a pain in the ass. And now there's this as well. I'm feeling like that the emphasis on an attempt to try to make this very abstract game more militarily detailed is really problematic, to tell you the truth. I may be complaining a little too much about that. It wasn't that painful, to be honest. You look around for where you have stacks. It's unlikely you're going to have stacks that are without a leader. And so quite often, you know, yeah, I had to paw through a few units. The Muslims were particularly problematic. Actually, nobody lost any. Oops. I missed those. The Beltranejos are all over the fucking place. Like, okay, so I got to lose one of my Beltranejos. I'm going to take it off this. I caught those. I didn't catch these guys. But yeah, I mean, most of it's fairly visible, but I did miss one. So let's keep looking. Leaders and units return to fortified spaces, possibly suffering attrition. I think attrition is if they go through plague areas, right? Or if they don't have a line of communications. Yeah. Oh no, plague doesn't. Plague's gone already. That's why. Unrest. We don't have any unrest either. All right. Come to a kind of interesting situation here. Land units in either unfortified or fortified spaces not controlled by the major power have to return to a fortified space. Fine. I think it's covering both keys in, I don't know if we have, and fortresses. Yeah. As well as triangles with fortifications on them. This is important because your first option is to return to any home key, but your second would be to return to the nearest fortified space controlled by the power. But what I couldn't do is take this unit and move it back here. I don't know where he's going to go, but he's going to go to a key. Something of a little bit of a weirdness. Messina started out with a couple of Aragonese units in it. Now I could leave one here, but instead I moved the entire force to my closest controlled fortress, which is Neapolitan. I could actually move that extra Naples unit. Gotta check so carefully to see if something is cav everywhere. Which is kind of tricky and a pain in the ass, but anyhow, I just wanted to point that out because this actually started with 2 units in it. I decided trying to defend with 1 unit is a pretty iffy thing, to be honest. It really is. Although an invasion could be dealt with by a 1-unit defense, conceivably. Anyway, I think I worked my way through the Spaniards. I still have the French to do, but otherwise I'm doing everything in impulse order. So we got the troops back. Now, on the Naus, I jumped down a little bit. Return Naus to settlements. Well, he didn't make it to 1. Make a navigation check to remain in C. I can make a navigation check at +2 to get to the built space, but then I can't build a settlement with him right away. I can't anyway, but at +2 gives me a good chance of making it, but I can roll at even to basically have the points for him. I'm going to roll at even, trying to recuperate a point or avoid losing a point. But on a 2 through 5, I'm sunk. Oh shit, on a 2 through 7, I'm damaged. Yeah, I gotta go up +2 to return, I guess. I don't know. Nothing good happens no matter what. Like, the fact that he was damaged and is at the end of the 5 or 6 years that a turn represents, as opposed to was out at sea at winter, you know? And it's not like he was out for the whole 5 or 6 years. He went out on the last year, right? He could have been out there for several years without having to make this check. If I had moved him out there as an earlier card. Of course, he would have formed the settlement under those circumstances as well. So, I don't know entirely what it's meant to represent. When you give me a turn cycle that's greater than a year and have something like a winter check at the end of each of those turns, something is fucked up, and it's just it's not a great design. In this game, it's problematic with the exploration being reliant on that. You wouldn't have this in EU. In EU, yeah, you got turns that are 5 or 6 years. They're 5 years each in general. But there's not a hell of a lot of this kind of stuff that happens at the end of each turn. The only thing that really happens is that you have the economic and diplomatic stuff limited to that 5 or 6 year period. And yeah, it can be a little, especially with the diplomatic. With the economic, you can kind of look at it as, well, look, you know, I got to do my pre-planning. How much do I want to divide up that planning aspect of the game, right? And in EU, every 5 or 6 years makes sense. Here, it's happening on every card play, essentially. You're able to do economics if you wish to, or whatever it is you do. Anyway, we've talked about that before. Naval squadrons return to main map ports. Okay. We're on the resources from settlements and caravans. There aren't any settlements out there to send their resources. Both these caravans, this one can go to a port. This one can go to a different port using a completely different thing. So these both go to the Muslim warehouse. And we're getting a regular and a cavalry. I believe these are placed immediately. And now we have the additional trade, additional resources coming in. The French North Sea, French Mediterranean. Do I control Venice? Yes. Genoa, no. Florence, no. So I get +2 for Venice. That'll get me a naval resource. Which goes in my warehouse. It's going to be a bunch of command points for next turn. Sweet. French North Sea. I have done no trade improvements. And I have, I couldn't have because I haven't signed the treaty. I believe I'm allowed to roll even though I'm still at war with the English. But it's not too likely. Yeah, that's not going to work. And now for the Spaniards, we have the Mesta. I get a +1 for each port under Spanish control in the Cantabrian Sea, up there, which I can trace a line of communication. I can't trace it through another port in the Cantabrian Sea. So this is going to be a little complicated. My Mesta are here, and I can trace up this way. So that's 1. I am allowed to trace through this space multiple times or through these. So I can go here and here. So I think I get a +3. And that gets me a naval resource for Spain. Let me flip that command point over. And that's going to be a victory point. That just gets put over here and scored. Okay. Nobody owns Ragusa. Are there any major power alliances? Yes. The Portuguese-French alliance just automatically expires. They can renegotiate it if they wish. There may be value to that. There's no piracy. Diplomacy reset, including removal of any of the admin penalty markers. There's a +1 card there that I'm going to think about. That's going to be this shows up like this. And this goes like this. And technically, we should be at the resolve marriage. There shouldn't be any marriages here. I need to swap batteries. I'll come back for victory determination, then we'll talk a little bit about where we are. First thing, and I left this unit here because I didn't want to deal with, like, I'm not even sure he could go anywhere, to tell you the truth, because I know that the surrender of Catalonia is happening here. So let's see what this does. Barcelona is controlled by an enemy. Remove all Catalan units from the game, including the leader Anjou. Okay. And from the game, to me, means they ain't never coming back. And I wanted to get all my French here in case I had something. Now, Anjou's on the same side as Anjou is there. So I think I just get rid of them. Place a Catalan control marker in each Catalan home space controlled by the Principality of Catalonia. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. Let's just pretend they're there. I don't want to hunt them down. Okay, now remove all of them from play. France scores 1 victory point for each pair removed from play from this list of spaces. The 2 spaces in Roussillon. What the hell? Those aren't Catalan. Okay, so I guess if the Catalans had gotten control of Roussillon, I would get points for that. Girona. Where's Girona? I can't remember where the fuck it is. That's Genoa. Girona's a port, if I recall correctly. Well, I don't see it, but I'm pretty sure there's no Catalan spaces on there. Palmos. Oh, what the fuck? Come on, man. There's Palmos. I thought Girona's a port up here. Tarragona. Well, okay, so I've got 2. I've got 2 points coming to me. Likewise, France scores 1 for each 3 Catalan control markers removed from the rest of the Aragonese home spaces. Yeah, there's nothing. If a control marker was removed from a space that is not Catalan home space, it becomes controlled by its home power. If it's removed from the Catalan home spaces and the space contains no French units, award control of the space to Aragon. Otherwise, award it to France. Now, I could have left a French unit here and pulled those Catalans back to the fort and done all kind of weird stuff. I'm not going to do that. So I get 2 victory points for Barcelona here. But now I lose 2 victory points for these 2 triangles. And this all becomes Aragonese home spaces at this point, which means Spain gains those 2 victory points. Okay. Remove the Catalan home card from the game. It's no longer used. To remove all the Catalan units from their home space, from the game, I did that. I put them in the bag. I'm not sure that's the proper thing. I'm not positive that they can't come back. But it said remove from the game. So I'm doing that, and I'll complain if they do come back, because that was wrong. I think there's no other surrenders. The Beltranejos have their home keys. The Nasrid haven't surrendered. I think what I'm going to do to fix the oops with the Nasrids, they didn't gain anything off what they did. If anything, they hurt themselves. So I'm going to remove the war between the Nasrid and Aragon and Castile. They shouldn't have been able to declare war. Had they won it, I would have just, had they won the space or whatever, I probably would have kept the war going. But as things stand, this kind of gives them a reset. They did something that fucked up their position, but now they're back at peace with Spain. Screw it. Whatever. We'll live with it. Okay. Yeah, I forgot I was going to do that. Check for French victory points for Lord of Italy. Now, I don't know, is that here? Yeah, it's listed there, but it's better listed in the French rules, if I recall correctly. Where's Lord of Italy? All right, we got the turn towards Italy. We don't have the Lord of Italy being listed there, do we? Oh, there we go, monarch. So this does not have anything to do with France turns towards Italy, I think. They're at the same level. So I don't think one is subordinate to the other. France gets victory points for controlling these spaces. Naples? No. Rome, yes, that's 1. Ravenna? No. Milan, no. Genoa, Venice, that's a second one. Florence and Otranto. Okay, so I've got 2 of those spaces. That doesn't give me enough to get a victory point. So, no Lord of Italy for me. It is not turn 7. We check for a winner. Nobody's broken 48. Nobody's 7 ahead of everyone else. So we have no winner. That means we are at the start of a new turn. I'll move this thing here to remind me of that and figure it out as we go. Part of me kind of doesn't want to do a repeat like immediately after I load this up. I'm going to do a summary of what we've seen so far. But yeah, I mean, Catalonia surrendered. The papacy is still in French hands. Some weird little, just weird things are happening all over. They're just sort of randomly happening, right? And to some extent that feels like, that feels like an event-driven type situation. I don't know if there are Barcelona points anymore. These appear to go to both France and Spain, but I think these are no longer really available. I'm going to pile them up over here. I don't see any way Spain gets them. They just get Barcelona. Am I missing something? Quite possibly. Nothing told me to get those. Yeah, I don't see anything there. I do not see anything there. So I think those counters are just gone. France has gotten what it can out of them, which is the 2 victory points that they got this turn, and the Catalonian Civil War is over. The Beltranejos are still about as big a problem, if not bigger than they were. I think they expanded into Seville, knocking out a fleet. The Nasrid made some weird sort of threat, and it came to nothing because I cheated. The Portuguese, I mean, they're gaining an advantage here over the North Africans. They've got a nous that they can try to sail in again. I should have stayed at sea. I should have stayed at sea. Because I would have been making the roll the same as I would make if I return. You know what? I'm just going to put him back here. Because no matter what, there's no way to fix this. And no matter what, he's just... I have to make that navigation roll again to get into here. Now, granted, I might have some bonuses next turn. Screw it. We'll go with the decision we did. But because I might have another naos and be able to leverage the fact that I have multiple of them to do something cool. Plus, I don't have to face the terra incognita, do I? No, I don't have to face a navigation roll, and I don't have to face terra incognita. There's no navigation hazard here. Okay, good enough. Yeah, this was the right thing to do. I think a fair amount of the next video is going to be preparing the game for the turn, because I've got to shuffle the deck together. The French are going to get the papal bull again, because they managed to keep the papacy, but they lost the power of the crown. Now this comes in on turn 2, so I'll be getting the rise of France. And that's about it, I guess. So we'll load this up. I'll try to come up with some narrative of what happened. It does feel very disjointed. And then we'll start the next turn, I guess.